Awesome. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you all for coming and showing up today to the Winner's Circle, where we're able to mastermind and help lead everything. We have Elgin, Frank, and Nate Butcher helping run this session. And our special guest today, Miss April Cook, is going to be helping facilitate this conversation. So really appreciate everything. Like I was, I'm Michael Sane. Wanted to just kind of go through today what we see going on out there, what people are having issues with, and what's coming across people's tables so that we are ahead of the game as far as our paperwork, our transactions, and knowing what to do and how to deal with challenges that may rise. So April, love to just kind of jump right in here. And everybody else, like we said, always, this is a mastermind, so this isn't a lecture, so we're not just speaking at you, so feel free to, jump in, chime in.
I'm going to say a couple of things here. I'm going to put my realtor hat on and say everybody should be voting, right? Everybody should have their ballot, their mail-in ballot, drop-off ballot. They should be voting, and you should be voting no on Proposition 33.
And I have yard signs if anybody wants them.
Well, 2 of those are mine. So,
well, I've got 8 extra.
2 are mine because I ordered 2.
Yeah.
But again, this has to do with preserving individual property rights of single-family homes. So read up on it, but vote no on 33. Encourage your clients to vote no on 33. And there's a lot of stuff on the CAR website about the no on 33. So I want to say that to start with. The other thing I want to talk quickly about, very quickly, and I'm going to put the link in here so you can review it yourself, is what's going on in the market right now. So MetroList every month puts out these statistics. And right now, if you look at this and review it, the market is down. Listings are up, or actually some listings are down, but the market closed sales have dropped 12% from last month to this month. In Sacramento County, 55% in Yuba County, but it's a seasonal low. If you look at it, they do it for the last 2 years. We always go way down in November, December, January, and toward the end of January, it starts picking up and going up. So it's a seasonal low. Does it mean the market's crashing? We don't know. We won't know for 2 months or 3 months. So it's seasonal and typical right now. What I'm seeing, I think the biggest issue I'm seeing in some transactions right now, just because I do a little bit of TC work on the side, is there's a huge fallout. I don't know if you're seeing that, Michael, where buyers are getting cold feet. One of my agents, literally the day of closing, the guy wanted to cancel the day of closing. And we were able to save that, but they wanted to cancel. They were so freaked out by the big payment, the interest rate, all of this, the responsibility. And luckily his family intervened and they closed on it because it was going to be a family house. But that's the kind of stuff we're seeing. Yeah, Claudia?
I'd like to add to that. My client that's closing today said if she would have known the insurance was going to be such a debacle, she might not have gone through with this. And it's a good thing that she didn't know about this because this is the best house for her. And she got great insurance, though.
Once you have the insurance resolved, it was a typical insurance and it wasn't overpriced and it was nice.
Great.
But there is an insurance crisis in this state. And not just this state, it's across the country. And Florida has it just as bad, if not worse than what we have it also. So that is, again, why it's in the RPA, right on that first page, insurance contingency. I'm leaving it at 17 days, but get your clients to get insurance day 1. A lot of companies are not writing policies right now. And we have an insurance broker coming into a regional meeting. I don't know what day they're coming in, but I'll be advertising it.
29th.
The 29th. So that'll be Tuesday morning at BJ's in Elk Grove, 8:30. So she's going to address the insurance crisis. The other thing I'm seeing with some mentees, and it's always a struggle. I mean, I have some really great mentees, and this has nothing to do with the mentees that are present today. So don't worry about that. There's misinformation, and they believe that I had one that actually believed that the sellers couldn't pay a buyer broker at all. And that person had gone through all the trainings. They told me, I went through all the trainings and it's supposed to be separate. I said, yeah, but that doesn't mean the seller can't pay. But in their mind, the seller couldn't pay. And that person was also getting guidance from their sponsors. So I just had a major issue with the whole thing. And that's the misinformation out there. So as mentees, I always instruct them, send me the contract before you get it signed by anybody. I need to review it. I need to know if it's correct, whether it's a listing contract, a buyer representation agreement, or a purchase contract. I'm going to review it. I'm going to make corrections. Well, I'm not going to make the corrections. I'm going to email you what corrections should be made. I'm your back office. I'm here to make you look good and explain any of these little issues that come up and why certain things should be done a certain way. And it's and sometimes they get advice from a title company who isn't necessarily following our broker advice on how we should do contracts and who should be signing on a contract. Just had that happen today with an agent I'm helping on a property, former mentee. And if title's in a trust, the trust is the seller. And you have the equal trustees sign. Title says, oh, no, you can have the individual sign. But what does the broker say? What have we all been taught? The entity is the seller, not the individuals. So anyway, those are the kind of things I'm dealing with right now. I am seeing new homes. Agents are very successful at selling brand new homes, going in and registering their clients. That's a great, easy way of getting business right off the bat. And the new home developers are giving lots of commission money out there. Yeah. Lots of good stuff.
Yeah. So I want to address a couple of things that you had said there. I think that are really important. I mean, all of it is, but the misinformation that we're hearing and that's out there, coming to things like this, making sure we're attending classes, making sure we're checking in is huge. Not only for our mentees, right, but for all of us. Now, you and I both tell our mentees, before you do any transactions, right, send us the paperwork, let it look over and make sure it's correct. We have all these things that are changing, guys. These are all fairly new contracts. I mean, we've had them for a little bit, but they're all new paperwork and contracts. It wouldn't be bad for each and every one of us who thinks we understand it, unless you've been going to every single class and really doing some of the training, to grab a partner, go to the broker for the first couple of times. Hey, I'm doing this as a new contract. I just want to make sure I'm doing it right. Can you check it over? I mean, it's going to make extra work for them, but until you are fully on top of this, then it would be great for you to do that and make sure all the paperwork is done, because then you're not coming back and having to fix things, which takes, 5 times as long, because you have to go back, you have to do addendums, you have to, void contracts, all this stuff. So just make sure it's right the first time, check in with somebody and you'll be good.
Even for us, we miss things. And
yes,
that is because CAR is making quiet changes to these forms. There were several changes on the BRBC form, the buyer representation agreement, and the purchase agreement in the month of August. So these little changes come up and we may not catch them the first time because we're not notified of the changes. I'm a CAR forms trainer. I don't know if you are, Michael, but they have classes right now you can register for. So open up that email from CAR and take one of those classes. It's really good.
Okay.
But yeah, it's frustrating because I'll miss something that I shouldn't have missed because there was a change. So I have to remind myself, go over every little thing from the beginning to the end so I don't miss something. One of the little changes that was made before, say, escrow and title fees. Previously, if you marked both, it was automatically assumed to be 50-50. In fact, it had that verbiage in there. That verbiage is gone. Now you have to go back to putting 50-50 in. That was one of those little changes that wasn't pointed out or anything. It just happened. So be aware of that. I have agents from other companies that send me their contracts to review who haven't written one of the new contract yet. So I have friends, with other companies. They'll send me one, say, April, take a look at this. So I'm always available to review a contract if anybody wants a second set of eyes on it.
Yes.
Can readily do that.
April, a question.
Sure.
Since you are a CR formal trainer, when these changes happen, do we need to, let's say we're in a transaction and sometimes we start a new transaction, would automatically the new form with all the updates be available, or do we have to make sure we pull it?
So that's a really good question, because I had this happen to me. I knew that the agency form changed in August. How many of you knew that the agency form changed in August? It now has an August 2024 date on it. This changed obviously in August, and we had a transactions with one of the agents. They started this transaction because they made several offers on the same property before they finally got into contract and finally closed. And it was that very one that I just talked about that they wanted to cancel on the last day. Well, they started back in July. So the file never changed. Once you have a transaction in zip forms, it does not update the forms when new forms come out. It'll update a template, but not the actual contract. So I had to bring in a new contract because I caught the date on the agency. So I knew, oh, this is the old contract. So I did have to bring in the new one, get rid of the old one, and update that. So yeah, you have to be careful with that, or reapply the template, reapply that again. But yes, you have to manually update or replace the contract or the form with the new form when you're in a transaction in zip forms.
Thank you. And I know that's important, because if you don't have the updated form, and hopefully you're never in the legality realm of the process, but then now your company or maybe the other side, you might not get any protection from CR at least, right?
Well,
you have to use the correct form.
It doesn't make it an enforceable contract. And there's times when we could be in contract in escrow and there's major changes that happen. We're still good. We're grandfathered in. So it doesn't mean that if we're in contract or we got into contract with the wrong form, it doesn't mean it's not enforceable. It's probably still enforceable. We may have to update like the agency thing, but yeah.
Thank you.
And the next thing I wanted to talk about is, just what you said is people are taking, mentees taking information from the title reps. I have a lot of mentees that are taking information from the seller or the buyer, because that's what they heard. And this is where it's so important that our, buyer's consultation, our sellers, listing presentation, those things are done and they're thorough. It's not like, hey, my cousin wants to list their house. Okay, I'm going to go over it. The listing's already set. So cool, come over and sign this paper. And then they're telling me everything because I've not done any of the work. I have to come up and treat everything as, all the way through. I have to cover every point and not make assumptions. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to educate them for things that may come up in the process. In California right now, we are having issues with insurance. So just to let you know, that may be some things that we're going to run into. This is what here. So now you're aware of it. It's going to be frustrating, but to let you know, I'll be there. We'll walk you through and we will get through it. I know that you're thinking as a lister, a seller, that you don't have to pay the buyer's agent. The rules have changed, but this is the way that things are now. I know as a buyer, you think that nothing can be changed. This is the way things are now. This is the way that it processes, so that you can walk them through, tell them their expectations. Once they know their expectations, then you can help fulfill them. But otherwise, if you leave it blank or let them tell you, you're not the professional. Everybody wants to believe they're professional, right? I'm selling my house. I've sold 2 houses before. I know what I'm doing. So you got to take this percentage and you're going to do this, and I don't have to pay that, and I'm not going to list it. And my grandfather sold his house 60 years ago, and this is the way he did it. So this is the way that it is now. You're the professional. You've been in the business. You know the changes. Come up, let them know, and walk them through. If they were that professional and they knew how to do it all, they wouldn't be using you. One person that's amazing at this, I know, is Elgin as well. April, if you want to chime in, but I'd love to hear Elgin's take on how he handles a lot of time with expectations and
Well,
setting expectations.
I want to make, before Elgin gets on, I want to make one point, a critical point, sitting down and talking to your buyers and sellers. Pre-zip forms, pre all of this online stuff, we had to sit down and talk to them in person. We had to go over paragraph by paragraph of what they were signing. And right now, agents think, oh, just send it and let them sign it. If they have questions, they'll call me. That is not how we do it. That is not how it should be done, because it's hard enough for us to understand the contracts. They're written by attorneys. How do we expect our clients to understand the contract? We need to read the contract. Our mentees need to read the contract and understand each and every paragraph of that contract so they can explain it. They can go over it with their clients so they can understand it. And of course, setting the expectations. Elgin, you're up.
No problem.
We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Excellent.
Okay. So what I think that particularly on both sides, but on the listing side, is a whole lot of the whole process goes easier if the listing agent preps the seller properly. And if you prep the seller properly, that makes the buyer's agent job easier. And to be quite honest, even if the buyer's agent is a little misinformed or not sure or whatever, if you can at least get the seller ahead of time on the process, then if you have to help the buyer's agent to put the deal together, you do that. You do that as well. So for me, what I'm doing is on the listing presentations, I'm actually delivering different net sheets to the client ahead of time, showing them the differences they would be possibly looking at based upon the buyer's commission that they may pay. I also explain to them that although legally, technically, they are not required to pay a buyer's agent, they are also they also are allowed to pay the buyer's agent, and that they need to understand that at least in 85% of the transactions, there are two agents that are involved. And the two agents that are involved, one representing the buyer and one representing the seller, you have to remember that if you just decide you don't want to offer any or any seller concessions, that you're now pretty much cut yourself off for 80% of the marketplace. And now what we're trying to do is we're trying to sell your property to 15 to 20% of the marketplace. And right now the market especially is not, at least where I'm at, it's not the market for that. It's not the market for that. And to be honest, when I'm working for the seller, I am just telling the buyer's agents to write whatever into their offer that the seller will listen to concessions. And I doing that, one is I believe that it is your responsibility as the agent representing the seller, it's just my opinion, to not specifically say to the buyer's agent, oh, the seller's willing to pay X amount of commission or X amount of whatever, or excuse me, X amount of concessions. So I'm not supposed to say commission anymore. I do that because I don't want, if any of us have been in situations before where a seller may have told you they'll do something, or even more importantly, tell you they won't do something. And then you get into the seller says, I'm not going to, I don't care, I'm selling this as is. I know that the roof is leaking, but I'm not going to fix the roof. And then you get an escrow, and the buyer's lender said, we need the roof fixed, or they can't get the loan. And all of a sudden, the seller is willing to get the roof fixed. So because of those things, I just I counsel the sellers on those things, and then I move on. And on the buyer side, I just explain to the buyers how the commission works now compared to how they worked before, but that I tell them that just to understand that we can write into our contracts what the buyer's concession will be, and it becomes a negotiation. And now, of course, explain to them what they're responsible for if the seller will not do anything or will only do a partial or whatever the case may be, but also explain to them that they're not required to move forward with that transaction, of course, if they either don't want to and or can't, you can't fulfill it. But I'm not doing the whole, I'm not calling agents ahead of time. Are you paying a concession? How much are you paying? I'm not doing that. I am just writing my fee into the contract and explaining it to the buyer, and then it just becomes a part of the negotiation. Because quite honestly, the listing agent can only tell you what the seller has told you so far, and or we don't know how they've handled their seller in regards to preparing them properly. So I'm trying to keep it as simple as I can. I try to keep it as easy as I can, but I also make sure that I tell the truth as much as I know it, and allow both buyer and seller to know what their possible options are. Okay, that's my long statement. I'm done.
Thank you. April, you put something in here, the break room.
Okay,
about,
so that is directly from our policies from EXP on different verbiage that you could put into your listing contract. And I'm telling new agents, don't put any amount in, just that the seller will consider buyer compensation. That's it. That's all. It's simple as that. Because the other expectation I set with sellers is, guess what? It's negotiable. In the past, you couldn't negotiate this. It was unilaterally offered in MLS and you had to pay it no matter what. Once you're in contract, you had to pay that. Now you get to negotiate that commission, concession. You could still call it whatever. That was one of the other changes that was made on the forms, is they took out the word commission and just call it a concession. But it's really a commission.
And huge on that, right? That you could put that on those terms and everything on your listing contract.
Yes.
Not on the MLS.
Well, you put it on your listing contract, seller will consider. And that's all it is
right.
the consideration. Don't put a dollar amount.
Right.
Don't put an amount in there. And again, if you have a seller that's saying, I'm not paying a cent, you want to ask your seller, well, what if the agent comes in over the listed price to cover their concession? Are you willing to pay it then? It seems like some sellers have a difficult time doing the math. And I say this because I just had this happen to a friend of mine who came in, huge amount over the listed price to pay her buyer broker concession, a certain amount, and seller didn't want to pay it. So she actually wrote an email and said, look, here's your choices, and did it real simple. We could come in at this price and you pay this amount, or this price and pay this amount, and all these different choices. And then the seller actually picked one of those and said, okay, we'll do it that way. So I think when we present our offer to the listing agent, we should do an email and says, this is what we're offering. This is why we're offering this amount, and go through this, because I found this to be true from 30 years ago. If you present your offer first to the listing agent, they'll turn around and present it the same way to the seller.
Yes.
So go back to old school stuff.
Yeah. That was one of the important points. It's just the importance of spelling out your offer or your client's offer and giving an explanation of how you came to the value and how it could help experienced listing agents as well as buyers agents to present. So if you feel the value, is a certain amount because of the roof, because of this, hey, you know what? This is what they're asking for based on this. They know the repairs, based on this, unless something comes up, they're okay, not really looking for any repairs. Based on this is where it's going to cover this. And you can say, the comps say this is how much we're offering because it's going to include a concession to cover buyer broker's fee. If not, we can do it at this amount, but it's not going to cover broker's fee because this is what it would comp out to. So if you explain that to your seller, we're going to have that taken care of at the time. The other thing I really want to stress is, as we're going, we are in, I'm not even saying the microwave age, now we're in, the internet age. Everything is instant, right? And everybody wants something quickly. So that's the problem, like you said, now that we have zip forms, now that we have all these DocuSigns and send it out. Clients are impatient, agents are impatient. This is a huge, huge dollar value purchase or transaction people are doing. So to sit down with somebody and make it understood is so important. We're going to have people say, oh, I don't have time. I don't want to do it. Just send me the paperwork. You know what? Have enough, responsibility for yourself and your business. Say, I really appreciate that you don't have that much time, and it kind of hurts sometimes, but, I don't do business that way. As a professional, I make sure that every one of my clients understands what they're signing. I explain things. So if you do that, there's nothing that can come back at you. They're going to understand, because otherwise they're going to say, oh, send me paperwork, right? And then later on, they're going to be like, oh, you never covered that with me. And it's going to cause issues. So take the time to explain to the people. Use the time to build a relationship. Go to dinner with them. Sit down, have lunch. Find the time to talk. This is only going to make your relationship stronger, which will make it in the future for all of us to be able to have referrals and return clients. And I think that's so important, to not say, oh, I can do this in 5 minutes. Let me get it to you. It's okay. You want this? Nothing's going to happen between 5 o'clock and 8 o'clock tonight that wouldn't happen by the next morning. So I don't have to return your call. I don't have to rush home, get this offer written, send it out to you. I can go home. I can find out everything. I can print it out, send you a PDF if you're not close by me, get on Zoom with you and go over it line by line. I can take the time to make sure that you understand what you're going to be signing, answer any questions that you have, and then send you something to sign. Or if you have time, let's meet. Let's go have dinner. Go ahead, April. I see you.
And everybody gets a free Zoom account, so you can meet them on Zoom, share your screen, go over this stuff with them. It's not rocket science. Once you do it once with them, you don't have to do it over and over again with them. They know what they're signing. So if they're making an offer on a property, once you go over the first time, that contract, and they don't get that house and they go over, and then you do the next one, it's going to be a lot less, because you're just going to really go over the terms. You've already went over a whole purchase contract with them. So get your Zoom account. It's free.
Yes. Claudia?
Has anybody run into sellers not offering any commission and saying, no, I don't have to, and I'm not going to? Has anybody run into that?
Yeah, I have done. I have seen that just last Friday on a listing that is probate, and I had two attorneys present, and they said, well, we understand we no longer have to pay a commission. And this is from attorneys. And I said, well, you don't have to. You never had to. But let me just tell you what is the consequences. As a matter of fact, they paid more than their fair share just after the explanation. And if I may use that opportunity, thanks, Claudia, for that question, is there are three things that you all shared, but I want to summarize it, is be consultation driven. I mean, the whole things of the buyer representation, April knows that I have done that for years ago, is the idea is to give a consultation, not to really get the contract signed. That's the premises behind it. And with that, Elgin said something that I like to also get. I made a note of each one of your sayings. Be consultation driven, set the expectation. I think that's a great thing, that we set expectation with our buyers and sellers. And Claudia, when we set expectation that Mr. and Mrs. Sellers, you don't have to pay a commission, but let me tell you the consequence. And when we paint the picture that, yes, you're not going to work with the top agents and basically not the top dollar buyers, then they get the picture that they're going to have to sell it to the wholesaler, and they might not get top dollars. But the other thing that
it's going to sit on the market.
Right.
And that's correct. We see the consequences with that. But we as an agent, we have the fiduciary to do the consultation, as Michael said, and explain to them what is it. I mean, we have the experience, right? They don't have it. They don't know what's coming. They're just looking at the saving. I don't have to pay the commission. Well, you don't have to pay it, but do I have the permission to share with you what is the unintended consequences of that? And then they say, well, yes. And when you do it, they say, oh my God, this was just a question. Sorry for me to even asking. But Elgin said something that I do it, and I think it's more vital. When you set the expectation and you do the 3 net sheet or whatever you want to communicate, you bring the numbers. That actually what I have done with the attorneys. And I said, this is all about the net amount. So we discussed day one, how much net you're expecting. We exceeding it. So that's what it takes. Sometimes you have to give and take. It's a negotiation, but the agent has done all the work to bring the buyer. So now you want to basically say, we don't want to pay you? It's almost like you get somebody to do the work, and now you say, oh, sorry, we don't have the budget to pay you. How do you feel about that? And they said, well, we don't feel very well. I said, well, that's exactly what you're doing. We communicated with the buyer agent. They brought their A game, wrote exactly the offer that we wanted, and now we say we're not going to pay you. So once you be able to articulate your point and bring your experience and verbalize it, then this way now you get clear. But set the expectation on the net amount. And that's always, when I go to the listing appointments, always the question is, how much do you charge? I said, my question is to you, how much do you want to net? You tell me how much do you want to net, and I tell you how much I charge. And I turn it back at them. Ask questions, because when you ask the correct question, you get the great results. When you're actually falling into answering the question, oh, I only charge like 1%. Please give me the listing. I'm broke, right? And that's the wrong thing. And I think the reason that we do this mastermind, because each one of us, when we get better, we raise the bar for all of us. And it's time for the real estate and the real estate professional to be professional. And it starts with the consultation, starts with really holding ourselves accountable, and also go to training. Of course, everybody that is on this call, they are the leaders. Those are the ones that go to the training. I mean, every time April says, I have a class, I said, I'm showing up. I'm actually a student of everything, because things constantly changing, and we are on an even playing field. And it's one thing that I think you all shared today, is that it doesn't matter if you have 25 experience like me, or you're just coming in industry. We are all in it together, because when something changes, if I miss it, it doesn't matter my 25 experience. I missed it, and because of that, I don't get the right results. That's my contribution today. Back to you.
Thank you.
Claudia, as well, I've experienced some sellers that not want to pay, and it's like you said, we just want to go talk and remind them, you don't want to pay, any concessions. I understand that, but again, are you talking about net? Some people just focus on where the money's going instead of, hey, this is where the money, but where's the money? How much money is coming? That's what's the most important. It's the same conversation that you had when you were doing a listing before, and you were just talking about your commission. What's important? What's important to you? Am I going to negotiate for your best interest as well? Yes, I'm always going to be negotiating for your best interest. But as he said, if you're looking to make this amount and somebody comes in and is going to be over that amount, you hear one big thing I don't think is necessarily being addressed to a lot of the listers, the sellers, when we talk to them, is a lot of them are basing their prices on comps that have been gone out. As a listing agent, I need to inform my seller, right? This is the price that this sold for, right? And you want to get that price. Just so you know, that price included the concession that they had to the other agent. So if you don't want to include that, then you need to take that off of the price that you're including, that you're thinking that you want to price your home out. Because otherwise you're double dipping. You're taking money for this and you're trying to. So if we can get them to understand that amount, just that simple part will allow them to say, oh, okay, well then that's why I'm pricing it at this. Otherwise I would price it lower. And that's what I thought.
Thank you.
Anybody else to add on that?
Too, I think that depending upon the time frames and stuff for both buyers and sellers, and listing agents versus buyers agents, is that the majority of agents, say, that have been in the business, say 10 years or less, have experienced one particular type of market. The market is going to change. The market is going to change to where if it's no more than, as I'm experiencing, some homes taking a little bit longer to sell. And sometimes you might be looking at comps, but your pendings and your actives are lower than the last closed comps. So yeah, the property will appraise, but are buyers still paying that amount? There's going to come a time when the market is a little bit, quote unquote, more even as far as buyers and sellers having opportunities. And that will change how some offers are written, because there are going to be circumstances. I have not experienced this myself yet, but I'm talking to some other agents that are friends of mine, and they are experiencing the buyer's agent coming in with, quote unquote, a higher concession than what they've been receiving or what we've been receiving the last few years. And, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, yes, the buyer's agent is asking for a little bit more concession, but your house has been sitting on the market 90 days and nobody else is looking at it. So you're going to have to learn dialogues and learn different conversations. And in my opinion, to not only know the numbers and the craft yourself, but to develop the conversational skill sets that it will take to maneuver through the transactions. And please remember that the more work that you do up front, the less drama you have through the transaction and to the end. And I had to remind myself of this same thing that I'm telling you guys with a situation with a property last week, where I had to actually just stand back and say, you know what, I'm pushing this round peg into this square hole unnecessarily. You know, it'll work itself out as it works itself out. I'm just here to deliver information, and once I finish delivering information, everybody can make a decision. And now, of course, it's going in the right way. But me trying to force it that way, because I just know this is the best thing for everybody. Whether it is the best thing for everybody, it doesn't matter. What matters is they don't feel that it is. And, you know, sometimes we have to get out of our own way and out of the buyer and seller's way for that. So anyway, just keep that in mind. The market will change. When the market changes, the dialogue is going to be different.
No matter what the market is, good, bad, whatever, there are people that still need to sell. They absolutely need to sell. And there are still people that absolutely want to buy. And your job is to capture part of that market. I've been through 2 major real estate crashes where property values went down 50%. Is this going to happen again in the future? I don't know. Possibly. They could drop 10, 20, 30%. That would still be a major drop, but we don't know. We just don't know. And a lot of it depends on the economy and all that good stuff. So we know what happened in 2007, and we know what happened in the 90s, the early 90s, and they each had totally different causes for those drops. And the length of time it took for it to reach bottom and to recover took several years. I think the one that started in 2007, it took, 6-7 years. It hit bottom in 2012, right around there, prices hit bottom. And the one in the 90s that started because of Desert Storm, that goes way back, that was a little bit shorter and they started to go up. So even if the market crashes or starts to crash, it slowly goes down, hits rock bottom, and then starts going back up, and it'll start jumping back up. Because we still have such a shortage of housing in this state, we don't know if that's going to happen again in that way. And still, prices have continued to climb, even above and beyond what the highs were in 2005, because that was the height of that market. So they've more than doubled from that.
Yes. Good points. Ari, you had a question?
Well, I just want to make a comment on that and tie it to the conversation. That's why setting the expectation is so important, because look forward. Let's say we are actually going to be in 2007 and 8. The 2008 when the financial meltdown started, all the way ended at 2012 when we recovered. So now let's say you're in 2006, you see the trend, 2008 is coming. So right now, if you were then, ask yourself, what would be advice for your client? But most importantly, are you in a position to capitalize on that market? Would you be in a position to maybe add 1, 2, 3 rentals, maybe for yourself, build your portfolio, or maybe helping your investor? What is the conversation that you're having leading into that? Because the thing is, if you would be in the stock market, people are making money when the market goes down and when the market goes up. But the only thing is, when the market goes down, the people that they make money are the ones that they're positioned themselves. So real estate is also about positioning. And what is the conversation that you're having with yourself? But are you ready to having a conversation that, oh my God, Elgin, I told you that the market is actually going to take down. This is the moment we need to act. Let's go buy 3, 4, 5 properties. And I know that you have the money because I know that you have the 401k. You had an insurance contract with basically $1 million in it on that pretty much you can cash out. This is the thing is, get to know your clients and position them for success. But it starts with the mindset of when the market goes down, that actually might be a blessing. Don't think that, oh my God, the market is crashing. Let's sit home, let's do nothing. It's all starting with you. And that's where we need to become a better advocate for our market and explain it to our clients. Sometimes we get the panic attack and then we passing out the hit plate to everybody else and says, oh my God, the market's crashing. And they say, oh my God, really is crashing. I'm not going to buy, I'm not going to sell. And then we ending up with a disaster market. So be ready, but think now of how you're going to respond, because that's going to be vitally important when you position yourself for success. Back to you.
That all ties in right where April first came in, right? She said, here's market research, right? This is the charts that we have, and I've been following and trending. If anybody watches or follows or sees my thing, I do something every day. I call it the PACE. I list the pending, active, closed, and expired, right? For the area around me, for the 5 little areas around me that make up Santa Clarita. I track those every day. I do average sale, or I do medians, but I do median sale price, median list price. I do dollar per square foot, and I do days on market. So I do those and list them. I put them in a spreadsheet. So I can go back 3 years and say, okay, look, the trends. So when I'm talking to a client, I'm able to tell them what's happening and where it's going to go. Look, the last time we saw these things are happening. Oh, look, these are the prices that are going. So if you start tracking and following, it will also bring more credibility to you when you're talking to people. But it will also help you understand what's going on. So when somebody comes up to you and says, what's going on in the market, you're not just like, oh, well, you know, what happened in the news, or I saw some things, or this is kind of trend. Well, what I've actually been seeing, and I actually track this, and I can pull it up and show you, I graph it, or I can show you the actual numbers. It's going to hold some value and show that your level of professionalism and know that you know what you're doing. But you're also going to be able to, like he said, pick sometimes, hey, markets are changing. I actually split it. I do single family homes, and I do another one for condos and townhomes. And there's a time I had a conversation with Elgin. I said, hey, Elgin, you know what's crazy? Condos and townhomes prices are going up. Single family homes are going down. This is a great time for anybody who wants to move up, right? You sell your house, it's a condo, a townhome at a high price. You're able to buy a single family home when it's lower. So you're able to track these trends and follow and then bring this to your clients. But it only comes from finding the right places, reliable sources. So go straight to the MLS. Is it market research or market?
It's market trends in MLS, and you can get statistics for all sorts of things down to the zip codes going back years.
So, but we have to just start tracking.
It's good to have for your listing presentation, because a picture is worth 1,000 words, and you're not going to give them raw stats. You're going to say, look at this graph. See, it goes up and down, and show them that. They'll get it. They'll understand it.
Yeah. I mean, and then guys, just for anything, if you want to lose weight, what do? You watch what you eat. If you start tracking what you're eating, you're going to see what positive, negative, and you're going to make adjustments. If you want to save money, you're going to start tracking your spending, right? If you want more clients, if you want to do better in this business, you're going to start tracking your conversations. So track the market, get some knowledge. The more you're able to track things, the more knowledge that you're going to have about that, the better you're going to be able to accomplish your goals.
One interesting thing, let's talk about rents, the rental market right now. Rents are high, and they have been high for quite a while. But you know what's higher because of interest rates? The house payment. So house payments are pretty much double what a rental would be for that same property. And this is a trend that I've noticed through all the years I've been in an adult, before I was even in the real estate market. So when I first thought about, I'd love to be able to buy a house, the house payment was double what the rent payment is. Kind of what it is right now, this kind of a market. Interest rates going up really hurt this whole thing and pushed a lot of people out of the market, or pushed them into a lower price range because of interest rates. And the government doing the interest rates, they were really wanting to reset the real estate market, not fight inflation so much, but they were trying to force prices down in real estate. It didn't happen. Prices continued to go up. But for me, being around for so long, it's just shocking that people are paying $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 or more a month in a house payment. When just a few years ago, it was cheaper to buy. That payment was less than what rent was. So it's an interesting correlation. that you can follow.
Awesome. I want to thank everybody for coming. I think we had some great insight. April, thank you for sharing. Claudia, Aria, Elgin, everybody who always contributes. I really, truly get a lot from everything that we coming to. I'd love to come back. I'd love to share. So I just hope that you guys keep coming back, obviously, and growing, and let others know. Make sure that we're letting others. April, you have, 2 of your mentees come in. We all have mentees. We all have people that we sponsor. We all have agents that are looking to learn more.
I am going to be doing a class on the RPA coming up. I need to check with my favorite title company here in Elk Grove for their room, their big giant room.
Conference room.
Yep, conference room. So probably it's going to be, because I have all sorts of things coming up. I'm thinking November 1st, Friday, but I'm going to have it toward more of a lunch hour. But we can't promote food. There will be food, but because it's at a title company, we can't use the word food in the same sentence with the title company.
Really?
So I'll be hopefully getting that arranged and sending it out to everybody.
Very cool.
Michael?
Go ahead. All right.
May I sent you a text earlier, but I invited Amy Salt. She's among the guests. Her picture shows Rink. And she called me, she says, Aria, I contacting realtors, and we are a data mining lead generation company. And I said, well, I might actually have a group of Mastermind that they always looking for innovative solution. So I want them to, for her to introduce herself to all of you. And then Michael, you can actually take her contact. And if it's appropriate, maybe you can invite her one time back to give a full-fledged presentation. I leave it up to you and Elgin and Frank and all the leaders, but just want to do my part of bringing value. And I thought she's a great person. So Amy, this is your chance to connect with the audience.
Hi, Aria. Thanks for the intro. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Yeah. So hi, guys. I'm Amy Salt with Rink. Rink is the service name. And we currently have this smart AI web scraper program that our company developed. I'm with NCIT. So this is a web scraper that'll pull up for you pre-qualified seller listing leads that easily convert into clients to represent. All right. And, this is how it works. I reach out to realtors. I give them a demo, show them the program, how to work it, do some scrapes for them for the areas they serve while we're on the demo, and see what leads pull up for them. So I don't know if anyone is interested in a demo. Maybe
Amy,
we could set something up via Aria. Okay, sure.
If I may, put your contact information in the chat, Michael, if that's okay with you. And then I want to make sure that, or send it to, send it to Michael and Elgin, so that this way then they can, because they're hosting it, I just want to make the connection. So this way they can, but you can present to either Michael or Elgin or both of them, and they can actually just open the gate of heaven to you.
Okay, that sounds good.
Sorry, Michael.
Okay, so I'm texting my email now, Michael.
All right. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Everyone,
I wanted to know if my newest recruit has ever been introduced to Shelley is on with us here, and I don't know if she's ever been introduced to the group.
You know what? I think I spoke to her when we first came on. April and I did, but we did not formally. Do you want to give her a nice introduction? We can give her a nice welcome.
She's cringing because I'm there's Shelley. Shelley. Well, I mean, the great story is I met her husband walking through Home Depot. And he said, "Can I help you?" I said, "I'm in here. I'm a contractor. I'm in here every day. I can tell you where anything is." And we were talking, and he goes, "Oh, my wife is looking for a brokerage." And so it was just so cool that, to make that connection. And Shelley, how do you like EXP?
I don't want a miracle, but it was close to a miracle that he found you. Yeah, I was floundering about where I was going to go. Yeah.
It was meant to be.
Yeah.
Well, welcome, Shelley, to have you.
Welcome.
We are also helpful. I know you have Claudia and April are there, and I always say, if you need help with anything, I'm always available to reach out, So I'll do whatever I can to
Well, I'll be calling you, Michael, when I plan my trip to Italy next year.
Okay.
You'll be helping my mentees during that time.
I've got you.
Okay.
Oh, perfect. Awesome. Well, cool. Thank you all so much. I will follow up with you, Amy, and everybody else. Thank you, and we will see you next week. Have a wonderful day.
Bye. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, everybody.
Bye.